Welcome to our channel, all friends. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe my channel and press the bell icon to stay update for new videos. Thanks. Let's start new. Kashif, the neighbor auntie is calling you again. What's wrong with her? My mother looked at me angrily and I got worried too. Mom, it's nothing. She just needs groceries. You know she lives alone and doesn't have any boys in the house, only a daughter. She can't send her daughter to the shop, can she? I defended the neighbor auntie, and my mother looked at me angrily again. Are you the only boy in the whole neighborhood? Every time, it's Kashif, Kashif, calling from her door as if you're her son, not mine. Tell her not to call me out again and again. Hearing my mother's words, I looked at her in surprise and asked, Mom, are you jealous? My mother took off her slipper and threw it hard at me. Get lost from here. Go. Go ask your other mother what she wants. My mother was really fed up with the neighbor auntie because ever since she moved into our neighborhood, she was constantly calling out, Kashif, Kashif. And surprisingly, even if someone else was in the alley, she would only call me. Even now, I put on my slippers and went to her door. Yes, auntie, what do you need? I asked very politely, having completely cleared my mind of my mother's earlier words. Son, please get me some semolina. It's Thursday, right? I'm making halwa. She said it very kindly. I immediately smiled, took the money from her hand, and left to get the semolina. The nearby shop didn't have good semolina. It always had insects. So I went to the bigger supermarket further down and got the semolina from there. When I brought the semolina, she said, thank you very much. I don't ask anyone else because first, everyone makes faces, and second, they bring things from nearby shops that are often bad, and my money gets wasted. I'm a poor widow. I earn my money with such hard work. I don't want it to be wasted like this. Saying this, she thanked me, and I smiled politely and went back home. My mother looked at me and said, tell me, what did she want now? It seemed my mother was waiting for me. I smiled and said, Mom, it's Thursday, right? Auntie is making semolina halwa, so she needed semolina. My mother looked at me angrily and said, you're the only one in the whole neighborhood. Sometimes it's flour, sometimes it's semolina. I asked my mother, what are you doing at home? Haven't you gone to Auntie Kulsum's house yet? Auntie Kulsum was my mother's friend, and together they worked as matchmakers. That's why my mother was often out of the house, sometimes with the girls' family, sometimes with the boys. This was my mother's source of income, and our house ran on it. My father had left us both a long time ago. Actually, my father had married another woman and then never even looked back at us. Yes, but as he left, he did us the favor of leaving this house for us. Otherwise, my mother and I would probably be on the streets. After that, my mother, with great difficulty, started working as a matchmaker with Auntie Kulsum, and that's how we managed. Even now, my mother had to go there. Hearing me, my mother quickly took out her shawl and said, I was just about to leave. I thought I'd ask you why she was calling. And after I leave, don't you dare go if she calls you. My mother finds that mother and daughter strange. She calls herself a widow, but she doesn't look like a widow at all. Always wearing a red dress, lipstick on her lips, bangles filling her hands. She looks like a new bride. She's quite old, but she dresses up like new brides. And then she keeps saying, I'm a widow, at every turn. My mother finished her sentence making a face just like the neighbor auntie, and I burst out laughing because she really did have a habit of saying that line at the end of every sentence. Mom, you're just picking on poor people. She just asked for a little grocery, and you've made a mountain out of a molehill. It's good to help someone. If I'm not home sometimes, you also ask Hassan to get things, don't you? I teased my mother. My mother hit me hard on the head with a slap. Hassan is like a child in front of my eyes. He grew up with you. I fed and raised him myself. I have a right over him. But this neighbor, she's only been in the neighborhood for a few days, and she keeps saying, Kashif, Kashif, that it makes my blood boil. Has she only found my only son to run errands? After your father left, you are my only support. I don't want you to get caught up in any strange affairs. I think this woman is a witch. My mother mumbled to herself as she left the house, and I laughed and got back to my work. Ever since my father left us, my mother had become very sensitive about me. If anything happened, or if I was out of her sight even for a short while, she would become restless. As soon as my mother left, I started washing dishes in the kitchen because I'd always been in the habit of doing household chores with my mother. A little while later, I heard a voice again. Kashif, son, where are you? The houses were old, with low walls and interconnected, so her voice easily reached our house. Hearing the neighbor auntie's voice, I jumped up. The thought crossed my mind that if my mother found out I went when she called again, there would be a huge fuss. But then, when I heard the voice again, I immediately locked our house and went to her. Seeing me, a deep smile appeared on her face. Come in. I've made halwa. Auntie invited me in with great affection. I smiled and refused, saying, Auntie, Mom isn't home. I can't come in right now. She didn't know how badly my mother had threatened me. Auntie immediately grabbed my arm. Oh, my child, I love you like my own son. I cooked this halwa with so much love. I don't know many people here, so I thought I'd feed it to you. Actually, I made a vow. Saying this, Auntie held my hand and pulled me into her drawing room, and I sat down on her sofa. Then I asked Auntie what kind of vow she had made. She smiled slowly and said, Just, son, I'll tell you when the vow is fulfilled. I have to make semolina halwa for 7 Thursdays, and each time you must bring the semolina. It was very good, no insects at all. Then she called out to her daughter and said, Dua, please bring some semolina halwa for your brother. A little while later, Dua came into the room smiling, and I looked at her intently. She was a very beautiful and sweet child. Even at 6 years old, she seemed to be helping her mother with household chores, and even now she neatly brought the halwa on a tray with a plate. At Auntie's insistence, I started eating the halwa, and I was surprised. There was a unique taste in her hands. The halwa had a distinct flavor that I had never tasted before. I asked Auntie in surprise, what did you put in this? It's completely different from my mother's halwa. Auntie laughed loudly and said, I put my love in it. I cooked it with great affection. Actually, I made a vow. That's why I made it wholeheartedly. Hearing Auntie's words, I nodded my head. Indeed, my mother always cooked in a hurry because she also had to go with Auntie Kulsum for matchmaking. I ate a full plate of halwa, and as I ate it, my eyes began to close. It felt as if sleep had overcome me, and then slowly, I lost consciousness. When I regained consciousness and opened my eyes, Auntie was sitting right beside me, trying to wake me up. I opened my eyes and looked at Auntie, and she smiled softly and said, You ate so much sweet that you fell asleep right here. Come on, get up. Don't you want to go home? What if your mother gets worried? Hearing Auntie's words, I stood up nervously and asked, Auntie, is it very late? She smiled and said, No, it's just been a little while. Go on, go home comfortably. I returned home with a dizzy head. Thankfully, my mother hadn't arrived and I was spared. Instead of washing the remaining dishes, I decided to lie down on the charpoy because my head was spinning. And then I lay down on the charpoy. A little while later, my mother came and got worried seeing me lying down like that. Is everything all right? Why are you lying down today? My mother knew I never had a habit of lying down. I just said, I wasn't feeling well. Then my mother came and sat by my head and started massaging my head. Doesn't my child have a fever? She was anxiously touching my forehead. Then suddenly she exclaimed, What are these marks on your neck? Did you get hurt? She was thoroughly examining my neck. I was surprised. I had no idea about any marks. I held her hand and said, Mom, you just worry like that. Maybe it's from the shirt collar. It's so hot, too. I was washing dishes in the kitchen for so long. I didn't even finish all the dishes, and I felt unwell, so I came here and lay down. I had made up a complete excuse, and my mother was satisfied. She said, Oh, if that was the case, you shouldn't have washed the dishes. I would have washed them myself when I came back. Now you rest. I'll prepare dinner. And then my mother quickly washed the dishes and started preparing dinner. It was nighttime, but I didn't feel like eating. My mother served dinner, but I refused, saying I wasn't hungry. Now my mother's heart sank even more. What's wrong? Tell me, why aren't you hungry? She came and sat beside me. Today I cooked your favorite fenugreek koftas. So what's the problem? She was pampering me like a child, even though I was already 17 years old. I smiled and said, Mom, I'm just tired. I want to rest. There's a lot of study burden these days. I want to pass with very good marks so I can get admission to a good university and make you proud. I don't like it when you go to everyone's houses doing matchmaking. You have to tell so many lies. That's why I want to become capable of something soon. I held my mother's hand and expressed what was in my heart. I really didn't like my mother going from house to house in the middle of the day to arrange marriages. Often my mother had to lie, and sometimes people would even criticize my mother, saying, "What kind of match did you bring? The boy is like this, the girl is like that." And I couldn't bear all of this. My mother saw me so worried and lovingly said, "As long as my son is with me, that's enough for me." My mother's love was priceless to me. I kissed my mother's forehead. I didn't eat dinner and went to my room to sleep. It felt as if that halwa had made my stomach heavy. I felt neither hunger nor peace. Then after a short while, I became drowsy, and I only woke up in the morning. My mother was calling me. "What's wrong? Aren't you planning to get up today?" My mother asked in surprise because I usually used to wake up before time. I got up with great lethargy and said, "Mom, I don't know what happened. It feels like my limbs are breaking." I let out a big yawn. My mother said, "If you don't have the strength, don't go to college." But I mustered the courage and stood up. "Mom, practicals are going on. I can't take a day off." Then with great difficulty, I managed to reach college like that, and I couldn't even study. Then in the afternoon, when I went back home and had lunch, I felt a little better. My mother said, "Now rest. There's no need to go out." I lay down on the charpoy under the tree in our courtyard. We had a tree in our courtyard that gave very cool air, so the charpoy was placed under it. A little while passed, and then a voice came from next door. "Kashif, son, come here for a moment." It was Auntie's voice, and hearing it, I started to get up from the charpoy, but my mother looked at me angrily and answered her herself. "Kashif is sleeping. I'll send him when he wakes up." My mother had said it so firmly that Auntie didn't call out again, and I felt very embarrassed. I didn't know what she needed, and my mother had refused like that. Just yesterday, she had invited me into her house with such love and fed me halwa. I told my mother, "I'm fine, I'll go. Maybe she needs something." My mother glared at me and said, "Have you seen the sun outside? There's no need to go out right now. Go in the evening," and she also keeps remembering things bit by bit. Can't she ask for everything at once? My mother had poured water in the courtyard and was sweeping while also bad-mouthing the neighbor auntie, and I was just watching my innocent, simple mother, who had dedicated her entire life to building my future. My mother had no peace, no comfort in her life. My mother didn't even have good clothes. Even now, my eyes were on my mother's clothes, whose color was faded in places. I was thinking that if I ever became capable, the first thing I would do is get my mother a few good pairs of clothes. I wanted to give my mother a good life because the deprivations we had faced after my father left were indescribable. I wished my father hadn't gotten involved with another woman. Then our lives would also have been very good, like other people. But my father, I don't know what woman he got involved with, that he left us. Thinking all this, I fell asleep. Then in the evening, when I left the house, Auntie was standing at the door. Seeing her, I greeted her and apologized for the afternoon. She smiled and said, Son, I just needed some groceries. It's okay. I got them myself." Hearing her, I felt very embarrassed. Then I said, "Auntie, if you need anything, I can get it now." She said, "No, but yes, on Thursday you must bring me semolina." Saying this, a smile came to her face, and I promised her that I would definitely bring her semolina on Thursday. Days passed quickly, and Thursday arrived, and then I brought semolina for her. Then Auntie made halwa and started calling me. My mother was home that day and said, "You just brought groceries for her. Why is she calling you now?" I said, "Mom, I don't know. I'll go and see." I went, and Auntie forcefully called me inside and gave me a plate of halwa. The halwa made by her hands was so delicious that I couldn't stop myself even if I wanted to, and I finished the entire plate in no time, and then I started feeling semi-unconscious. After that, I don't remember what happened. When I opened my eyes, Auntie was sitting near me again, saying, "You like my halwa so much that you eat so much that you lose consciousness. Eating too much sweet makes a person sleepy, and you fall asleep as soon as you eat my halwa. Now go home." Your mother was calling." Saying this, she smiled and I got up and went home. My mother saw me and angrily said, "Why did you go inside her house?" I told her, "Mom, Auntie made a vow, and that's why she makes halwa every Thursday. I just went to eat that." My mother said, "If she makes halwa, she can send it. What's the need to call you inside her house? I'm telling you, I don't like this woman. Don't go inside her house again." My mother said this in a very strict tone, and I got scared. "Yes, Mom, okay, I won't go again." I immediately showed obedience. Otherwise, my mother's mood would have soured. I quickly picked up my books and sat in my room. A little while later, my mother came with a glass of milk and looked at me in surprise. "These marks, you're on your neck again. What kind of clothes are making such bad marks? Look, it's all red. Change your shirt." My mother remembered the old incident, so she thought it was because of the shirt again, whereas I knew very well that it wasn't because of the shirt. But still, I got up, silently changed my shirt, drank the milk, and started studying. Then I got so busy with my studies that it became difficult for me to even go out of the house. However, sometimes at Auntie's call, I would go and get her groceries, and then the third Thursday arrived. This time I had brought semolina for Auntie, but when she called me to eat halwa, I felt strange because the second time too, I had marks on my neck, which my mother had seen and asked me many questions about. But I had evaded my mother's questions. I wanted to know what was in that halwa that made me fall asleep immediately. I also ate halwa made by my mother's hand, but I never felt sleepy. And the second thing was that I was now getting curious about the marks on my neck. So when I went inside at Auntie's call, I didn't eat the halwa. Instead, I cleverly asked Auntie for water, and she had to go to the kitchen. In that time, I put all the halwa in my pockets. Then a little while later, when Auntie returned, I pretended as if I had eaten the halwa and was feeling sleepy. I closed my eyes and lay down on the sofa. Auntie sat near me for a while. Then she came closer to me and then smiled and said, "Well, the third Thursday is almost over. Soon my 7 Thursdays ritual will be complete, and you will leave this world, and your mother will mourn you for the rest of her life." Auntie smiled and started chanting something, and then she started blowing on my neck. After that, she wrapped a thread around my neck and lit some lamps. I was feeling all of this, but I didn't open my eyes. She kept chanting for a long time, and then she completed her ritual. Then she told her daughter to quickly take all this stuff away from there. I don't know what all stuff it was that she sent back with her daughter. Then she started shaking me and bringing me back to consciousness, and I acted as if I had woken up from sleep. She smiled and said, "Go home, your mother is waiting." I stumbled and made my way home, and as soon as I got home, I told my mother everything. I didn't have the courage to question Auntie, but when my mother heard all this, she was completely shocked. Then my mother gathered some elderly people from the neighborhood and took them to that woman's house and started questioning her strictly. At first, the woman denied doing anything, but when the neighbors started investigating strictly, she spilled the truth. Actually, she was my father's second wife, for whom my father had left my mother. She had married my father for his money because my father had a good amount of money, but all that money was due to my mother's good fortune. When my father left my mother and went to this woman, his business ended within a few days. He had left the house in my name as he was leaving, and besides that, he had nothing. When my father no longer had wealth, my father started having arguments with his second wife. My father would tell her that everything had gone from his hands because of her fortune, and she would say that my father had cheated her. Amidst these arguments, my father had a heart attack and passed away. After his death, my other mother felt that she also had a right to this house because it was her deceased husband's. But since my father had put the house in my name, she couldn't get the house in any way unless I was gone from this world. And that's why she rented a house in our neighborhood and started doing magic on me. My mother was right. She was indeed a sorceress who had first ruined our home by putting my father under her spell. And now, by doing magic on me, she wanted to ruin my mother's life. Her goal was not just to get the house, but to give my mother sorrow and pain for life. When the neighbors heard this, they pushed her out of the neighborhood, and she left with her daughter. My mother and I returned home. My mother explained to me that one should never blindly trust anyone. Now I also understood this well. I hugged my mother and thanked God that a very big calamity had been averted just in time. Sometimes some men make wrong decisions in life, because of which they not only regret it themselves for their entire lives, but their children also have to regret it. My father also made such a decision by marrying a second time, and my mother and I are still suffering the consequences. My request to all of you is to only marry a second time when you can be fair to both wives, and when the rights of your first wife are fully being fulfilled, only then should you marry a second time and fully fulfill her rights as well. Do not put several lives at stake like this.